All right, welcome to The Explainer. So, let's just get right into it. I was digging through some research recently about how our priorities change throughout our lives, and this one quote just, wow, it completely stopped me in my tracks. And that's what we're going to unpack today.
The more mature we become, we start to realize how much nonsense we have wasted our time on. Just let that sink in for a second. There's something so universally true about that, isn't there? It feels like a shared secret we all discover at some point.
But, it makes you ask the question, what exactly is this nonsense that the quote is talking about? Let's try to pin it down. And what's really interesting is that this so-called nonsense isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just all the stuff that feels incredibly urgent, incredibly important right in the moment. But when you look back on it with some distance, you realize it didn't really add to your long-term happiness or growth. And these examples are, wow, they are so relatable. We've all been there, right? Chasing that little hit of approval online, losing sleep over what someone else might be thinking about us, holding on to tiny little grudges that just drain our energy. Oh, and the need to always be right in an argument. That's a big one. And maybe the biggest trap of all, comparing our own messy, real-life journey to someone else's perfectly curated highlight reel.
So, if we all get so wrapped up in this stuff when we're younger, how do we get out? How do we see it for what it is? Well, that leads us to the moment of realization. So what is it? What's the trigger? Is it some big birthday, a huge life event? The truth is, it's rarely one single lightning bolt moment. From what the research shows, it's usually a much slower, more gradual journey of just becoming more self-aware. You can almost map out the journey. It usually starts in the state of, let's call it youthful unawareness, where the nonsense is pretty much our entire world. Then you start to get these little nagging doubts. You start asking, wait a second, is this really what matters? Then comes the shift. Maybe it's sparked by a new job, a loss, or just the slow accumulation of life experience. And finally, you arrive at a place of clarity where you can look back and see all those old priorities with a new and much wiser set of eyes.
And this brings us to the view from maturity. And let me tell you, what a different view it is. This new perspective is really the heart of what that original quote was getting at. And the shift is just, it's profound. You move from needing constant validation from the outside world to finding your own sense of internal peace. You stop caring so much about appearing successful, and you start focusing on what it takes to actually be fulfilled. And instead of needing to win every single argument, you start to genuinely want to understand where the other person is coming from. It's a fundamental change in your entire value system. And this is maybe the most important insight of all. This has nothing to do with turning 30 or 40 or 60. Some people get this perspective really early on and some much, much later. Maturity, in this sense, isn't about the number of candles on your cake. It's purely about a shift in your mindset. Okay, let's circle all the way back to that original quote, because there's one phrase in there that's pretty provocative. Wasted our time on. But was it really wasted? I actually want to challenge that idea. Because what if all that so-called nonsense actually served a purpose? What if it wasn't a waste of time at all? Think about it. How can you truly know what matters until you've spent some serious time on what doesn't? It's by chasing fleeting approval that you learn the deep value of self-acceptance. It's by getting into those petty fights that you learn the incredible relief of just letting go. In a way, those experiences are our teachers. And that's the ultimate takeaway. That time wasn't wasted. It was an investment. All of that nonsense we went through is the very foundation that our wisdom is built on today. You couldn't have the clarity you have now without the confusion you had back then. So maybe the point of the quote isn't to make us regret the past. Maybe it's a call to action for our future. Knowing everything you know now, the real question becomes, what are you going to do with the time you have left? What will you choose to focus on starting today?